This next video is going to talk about cell respiration. Make sure, it's super important that you watch the photosynthesis video first. So with photosynthesis, alright, we have water, carbon dioxide, some sunlight, put it all together. That's going to give us our glucose and oxygen. And that glucose and oxygen, you can think about go. So glucose and oxygen are always going to be on the same side. Alright, now if you can remember this photosynthesis equation, you already know cell respiration, because cell respiration is just photosynthesis backwards. So, cell respiration, the whole point of cell respiration is to break down food into ATP. And remember, ATP is just energy. Alright, so plants spend all day making this food through process of photosynthesis. Then they need to break down the food. Okay, and that happens in cell respiration. We also do cell respiration. So not only autotrophs like plants, but heterotrophs animals do as well. Except we just eat our food and then our food gets broken down. Alright, so cell respiration is going to happen in the mitochondria. So I'm going to draw a picture of that in a minute. Let's go ahead and start with the equation. So our equation looks like this. Alright, so if we said our whole point is to break down the food, if you think back to before, okay, our food is just this glucose. So we are going to write glucose. Okay, go ahead and write glucose. And we have glucose and oxygen is always on the same side. Okay, glucose and oxygen, remember our go is always on the same side. They're together. So in photosynthesis, our go is at the end. We're spending all this time trying to make the food, make the go. In cell respiration, we're starting with the go and we're going to break it down into its pieces. So when we break down the glucose and oxygen, it's going to get broken down into water, which is H2O. It's going to get broken down into CO2, which is carbon dioxide. And if we go back up here, right, the whole point is to break down the food to release the ATP. I guess I should have said that more clearly. Break down food, let's cross that out, to release that ATP energy. So we'll put ATP. That wasn't wrong, this is just a better way of saying it. So remember, ATP is just energy. Alright, so we have this is like our pizza. Okay, this is our food. When we take that food apart, we get all the pieces that we use to put it together. So, let me see. With photosynthesis, let's see if I can get this, there we go. Okay, photosynthesis, water and carbon dioxide and some sunlight. Put that together, it makes our glucose and oxygen. With cell respiration, we are starting with the glucose and oxygen and we're breaking it down. So they're opposites. And when we break it down, it releases that ATP energy. Alright, so the last thing we need to do. So this process of cell respiration actually happens in the mitochondria. Alright, happens in the mitochondria. Usually, that's an R, I'm sorry. Okay, usually it happens here. There is a small portion that happens out here in the cytoplasm, but we're not going to worry about that right now for our purposes. So go ahead and just draw a squiggle. There's a lot of membranes in that mitochondria. Alright, so this outer part right here, the outer membrane. This inner membrane is called the inner membrane. It's also known as the cristae. Okay. Then all this inside, there's fluid in here, and this inside piece is the matrix. Okay, that inside piece is the matrix. Alrighty. That basically covers the mitochondria. So just remember that this is where we're taking that food and it's going to be broken down into ATP energy. There's 3 steps, one that happens here, one inside, or 2 inside the mitochondria, and one that happens outside. And it's going to make about 36 ATP. Could make a little bit less, could make a little bit more, but for the most part it's going to be about 36 ATP. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I clarified this. So with our cell respiration equation, we also have to balance it. So just like we did with photosynthesis, we're going to put a 6 in front of everything with the exception of our glucose. So our oxygen's going to have a 6, our water's going to have a 6, and our carbon dioxide's going to have a 6, just like we did with our photosynthesis equation. We're also going to talk about the relationship between the mitochondria and the chloroplast. So we know our chloroplast. I'm just going to draw a green circle for now. And then our mitochondria, right, it has our little squiggles. Chloroplast has our circles. The green one, right, it's green because of plants. This is where photosynthesis happens. That's where plants are making their food. And this is where what plants and animals have. This is the mitochondria. That's where it's getting broken down. Okay, so there is a clear relationship here. We know that sunlight is going to enter our chloroplast. Okay, that sunlight is going to enter. We also know that water and carbon dioxide are going to be taken in by the plant. And then glucose and oxygen is going to be produced. So glucose is going to be produced. And oxygen, remember our GO is always together. Oxygen and glucose are going to stick together. And it's produced by photosynthesis. Now, this glucose and oxygen are food. It's going to go straight to the mitochondria. And this mitochondria is going to break it down. So we think back to our cell respiration equation. Okay, when we break down this glucose and oxygen, we're going to get water, carbon dioxide, and ATP. So when it breaks it down, we know some ATP is going to be released, but also it's going to be carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so carbon dioxide and water. Now, if we think back to our photosynthesis equation, water is going to be taken up by that plant. Carbon dioxide is going to be taken in. Sunlight is going to be taken in. All of these things are going to be taken into our plant, and our glucose and oxygen is going to be produced. That glucose and oxygen is going to go to the mitochondria. Mitochondria is going to break it down. When it breaks it down, it releases that ATP. It also produces that carbon dioxide and water. And it's just a cycle that's going to feed into the chloroplast. Okay, with some sunlight, it's going to make glucose, and it's just going to keep going around and around in this cycle.